Welcome back to the channel, Black is One, where the agenda is to elevate the consciousness of the black race so that we can unite, build, and prosper. In this video, I'm going to be talking about France and Haiti. You know, when I did the World Cup series, talking about the history of some of the countries at the World Cup and what they had done to black people, when I did the France video, quite a few persons contacted me offline who didn't know that France was not necessarily a good country, you know, as it relates to black people. So I decided that I needed to give some information on France's history with black people. And seeing what is going on in Haiti right now, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about France, because they are responsible to a very great degree for what the country Haiti has become. But before I get into the heart of the video, I just want to give you a bit of aside information, and I promise I'll make it make sense. This is the information. The state of Louisiana in the US was named after King Louis XIV of France. Louisiana was not always American territory. It was a French colony. And at that time, it was about 15 times larger than what it is now. It was Napoleon who sold it to the United States for $50 million in 1803. 530 million acres of land for $15 million. This was called the Louisiana Purchase. Haiti, on the other hand, is 6.8 million acres. So when you do the math, Louisiana at the time was 80 times larger than Haiti. End of context information. I'm going to now tell you how this piece of information proves the evil and spiteful nature of France towards black people, and how France played a giant role in the impoverishment and suffering of Haiti. They have turned Haiti into a pariah, an object of international scorn, to the point where the US, the former president Donald Trump, can call it a shithole country. So let's go. Haiti was a colony of France during the transatlantic slave trade. Haiti was the richest colony in the world. Not the richest French colony, the richest colony in the world. And I need not go through the details of life as a slave under the French. You know, slavery was just cruel, hands down. So from the standpoint of a slave, you need not imagine why they would want to see the end of that system. So in 1791, Haitians revolted under their black commander Toussaint Louverture and outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and overpowered the French military and freed themselves, declared their independence in 1804, and rewrote the Constitution in which they abolished slavery forever. And those are the actual words in the Constitution, the word forever. That slavery was forever abolished in Haiti. They then turned the country into a sanctuary for runaway slaves, meaning that if you were enslaved in any other country and by whatever means you made it onto Asian shores, you were now free, you know. But this was bad news for France and company. All these nations which had a slavery economy, meaning they made their fortunes from the enslavement of African people. Countries like Spain and Britain and Portugal and the United States. Because one, France would have lost their most lucrative colony, and two, they feared that this would inspire other colonies to do the same. The Asian Revolution threatened the entire international slave business that made all these countries in the West so rich. So they wanted to make an example out of Haiti, and France would have to take the lead on this one because it was their colony. Haiti was a French colony. So what did the City of Love do? What did Paris do? First, they tried to re-enslave the Haitians militarily. That didn't work. In 1814, they tried to negotiate a surrender of the Haitian people. That didn't work either. Now, this is where the Louisiana Purchase come into the picture. Remember I said that in 1803, the French sold a piece of land to the United States 80 times larger than the size of Haiti for $15 million. Well, the leader of Haiti at the time, seeing that France would not back off, offered to pay France the same $15 million, as extortion money, basically. They were willing to pay France that money to be left alone, for France to recognize their independence. France rejected the offer up until 1824. And in 1825, King Charles X docked 14 French warships with 500 cannons in the Asian waters and made a counter-proposal or a counter-demand. King Charles demanded 150 million francs as reparation for their quote-unquote losses. That was 10 times the amount that they sold Louisiana for, Louisiana was 80 times the size of Haiti. You're talking about 530 million acres of land for 15 million. And now they charge Haiti 150 million for 6.5 million acres of land. That is what you call spite. That move right there was calculated to cripple Haiti and send a message to the black world for generations. Now, as you can imagine, with 14 warships and 500 cannons on your shoreline, Haiti agreed to pay the 150 million francs in 5 installments. This is the victim paying the criminals reparations, This is like the Jews compensating the Germans, the Nazis, for the Jewish Holocaust, It took Haiti 122 years to pay off that debt. But from the outset, Haiti couldn't afford it. 150 million francs, just to put it in context, was more than 10 times Haiti's annual budget at the time. Just for context, Jamaica's 2023 budget was a little over $1 trillion. Now imagine England dock some warships on our waterfront and put some war jets in our airspace and say that we have to pay them 10 trillion to remain independent. Just imagine that. The entire budget of the country, is 1 trillion, And Britain is saying, in order for us to remain independent, we have to pay them $10 trillion. Just try to wrap your head around that. That was what happened to Haiti, The 150 million francs that the French demanded was more than 10 times Haiti's annual budget. So Haiti could never have afforded that. So what they did, they had to borrow. And guess who they borrowed the money from? France. They had to borrow from France to pay France. 12 years into the deal, having paid 30 million, they defaulted. France sent 12 more warships. France would eventually reduce the amount from 150 million to 90 million. But again, the Haitians had to borrow from France to pay France. And as I said before, it took them 122 years to repay. They finally paid it off in 1947. That action by France is one of the main causes of Haiti's present economic problems. It's not that the Haitians are dumb or that they can't run their country. It's not like they don't know what their country needs. After the revolution in 1791, the Haitian government, the new government, the black government, embarked on a national school program. All this had to be stopped because of this reparation demanded by France. Because they had this 150 million debt to repay. All monies had to go into repaying France. The Haitian government also had to resort to heavy taxation of the people to get the money to pay the debt. And unsurprisingly, that led to disaffection, social tension, poverty, and political instability in the country. And that set the stage for what Haiti has become today, known less for its role in ending the enslavement of black people worldwide, and is more known for its low literacy, its political instability and poverty. All these seeds were planted by France. And yet France is known on the world stage for its capital, Paris, the city of love, the Eiffel Tower, their first world economy, their football team, two-time winners of the World Cup. That is what France is according to Western PR. But France is a dark and dangerous country, a sworn foe of the black race. Every time you see the word France, or you see that flag, just remember that they owe Haiti at least 90 million francs with 122 years interest. France owes Haiti for generational damages. And what I'm saying now is just one paragraph out of the book of France, when it comes to wickedness towards black people. I haven't touched anything. I haven't touched everything on Haiti, that France do to Haiti alone, I haven't touched what France has done in Africa. I haven't talked about what France is doing now. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so, and share the videos. And click on the like button if you find this content useful. Black people, we have to stick together. No matter what problems we have with each other, we have to solve them like family. We are the ones who have to make this thing work. Outside of our own efforts, there's no hope. No other race will help us. 400 or 500 years of contact with Europe and their quote-unquote civilization has been 500 years of misery. In those 500 years, they have never done anything for us in good faith. What do you think they've changed? These are people who keep church on the shores of Africa while they captured and trafficked our brothers and sisters. Worship and praise, Bible reading, preaching and prayer meeting taking place. And under the church floor is a dungeon, a stone basement packed with black captives, naked with 500-pound chains around their necks, waiting to board onto a slave ship to an unknown place, to work, to death. Anyway, my point is that we have to free ourselves from the clutches of these people and their systems, or it will never happen. We don't need to be bitter and hateful. That is not in our culture. We just need to get together and solve our problems by ourselves. Black is one. Live the revolution.